this is Kirsten and Ron LeGrand. We've got our Ask Ron today. So our first question is from Rhonda Stewart. She's from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, Rhonda.
And she says, recently, I have had several potential clients not want to complete a deal without a real estate agent, and they are all in their 30s if that means anything. They don't seem to understand or believe me when I tell them no agent is required, just me, my contracts, and attorney. How do I overcome these objections?
Well, gosh, Rhonda, I don't really know. I've not had that objection. I've never even heard anybody voice it before. It might be of something you're saying to trigger that objection, but I can tell you that here in Florida we have a broker on our team, mainly because of the Florida law requiring one to transfer, to assign options. Whether you want to do that or not, I don't know. It might be simpler for you to just come up with an answer to the agent situation. I'd like to really dig deeper and find out exactly why that objection's coming up, especially so many times. It's just not something we hear. Maybe you could write Kirsten back and give us a little bit more clarity on what you think might be triggering that objection, and I can handle it for you. And possibly we might even want to do that with a phone call. I really need to know more.
All right. So now we have Alan Murray in Florida.
Hey, Alan.
He says, I have a possible axe deal I'm working on. The property has $144K first and $12K HELOC. How would I protect my buyer in the event the seller decides to tap into more funds from the HELOC?
Okay.
I understand that in the axe paperwork this is addressed, but still, couldn't the seller tap into the HELOC?
Very, very simple. Just simply have your attorney create an addendum that the seller signs that they will not extend the credit line on the HELOC. However, I assume that your sales price is the loan balances, because if they are, then you'd want to do that. But if they aren't, and the seller's got a lot of equity, then it doesn't matter if he taps into the HELOC, as long as he does not over leverage the house more than the buyer owes him. So it may or may not be an issue, but a simple addendum will fix it. And that's all you can do. I mean, you can't stop the guy from going and extending his HELOC, but if he does, he's shooting his own big toe off, because he's killing his own deal, creating his own liability, and probably creating his own credit issues if you don't make the payments or somebody didn't make them because he overextended the house.
All right, so we've got Dan Garza in Michigan.
Hey, Dan.
He says, I don't want to be the what if I get struck by lightning guy, but what if I get an LO signed by seller for a 10-year term, the seller moves out and I can't find someone to assign to? Probably not hard to find buyers for these, but if I couldn't sell and I'm not in the position to make payments, what is the out?
Dan, you're killing me, man. You're killing me. You better go back and listen to the course again, because nowhere in there did you hear me say that you get a 10-year lease signed by the seller and the seller expects you to actually make a payment. The whole premise of the axe deal is, Dan, that you're going to go find the tenant buyer that the seller approves. And even then, they're not going to get their first rent check till 30 days after that tenant buyer signs a lease option agreement. So you missed a huge point in the axe program. You don't obligate yourself to make any payments at any time in any axe deal.
All right, Terrence Niles.
So lightning won't strike you, Dan.
All right. Terrence Niles from Post Falls, Indiana says, I'd like to get some good ideas on building a buyer's list. I've listened to the Axe audios, but I'm finding it difficult to follow up with all the realtors and mortgage brokers that my VAs are emailing. The brokers and realtors all want return phone calls and end up eating up too much of my time drilling me about my business.
I don't understand what the problem is. If they're brokers and the realtors just don't return their call, they're not going to be part of your program. Why bother with them? That's called pre-screening your prospects like anything else. You only put them on your buyer's list if you have a reason. And in fact, a buyer's list where you're only capturing emails is a generic buyer's list. You know most of them are a waste of energy and time, but it doesn't cost anything to send them emails, so you put them on there anyway. Your real buyer's lists are the ones you've actually collected information from because a human has talked to them, or they went on your website and filled out the information, and you know they got either credit or money to put down. That's your A buyer's list. The rest of them, don't allow them to suck up your time. And most certainly you don't need to call them back. So take control of your own time. That's what you need to do.
All right, our last question is from Edward in Afton, Tennessee.
Hey, Edward.
He says, is it absolutely necessary that I get a title search when doing an axe deal? I do know a title search company that is in good terms of pricing, just at this time do not have the funds to get a search done.
Okay. well, let me finish. Let me answer then. Edward, we only get a title search at the point where we find the tenant buyer that we want on axe deals. We don't spend the money on the title search until we know we got a deal. We don't know we have a deal until we find a tenant buyer. So once we find a tenant buyer, then we order a title search. It takes a day or so. Make sure we don't have any title problems before we install that tenant buyer. In that case, yes, it is absolutely necessary you do that so that you don't put a tenant buyer in a house and put them in a position to where there's going to be problems later because we didn't take that one simple step. Now, I don't know what you're paying for a title search. It shouldn't be much. We're paying $25. Remember, that's just a title company checking the title and sending us an email and telling us what there's anything that we should be concerned about. So you've got to negotiate that deal with your title company. And $50 max. Don't pay any more than that. Remember, it's a title search. It's not an abstract. I don't need a big pile of paperwork, and I certainly don't need title insurance. So I hope that answers your question. But don't avoid that step. But remember, if you want to, get your deposit from your tenant buyer first, and then go order the title search, which is really what you should do. So set yourself up for 2 to 3 days later to close, and during that time, make sure the title's okay. And that's an important step. All of you listening, please make sure you do that step. It's just one more way of preventing any future problems because of a little teeny thing you should have done right from the beginning. We get it here, and I recommend you all do the same.
All right, well, that's it for today.
Well, guys, we're into, what month are we in now? We're in August already. Holy smokes, the year is flying by. So what are you doing? Are you getting out there and getting some deals done now before this year gets by and you look back and say, where did the year go? Well, come on, let's get going. Make sure I see you in one of our upcoming events. Got a quick start in Minnesota coming up, and love to see you there. Call our office if you're looking for a really, really good deal. We got a great deal going on right now. So call our office and ask one of the guys about it, and they'll give you the content of it. Probably the best deal that we've offered in years, in fact. It is. It's a really good deal. So I'll see you next week. Go out there and make a mess.